There's an important election happening on Thursday, but it's not happening here in the United States. It's happening in Britain, where Britons will go to the polls and determine whether their country should stay in the European Union or exit the European Union, the so-called Brexit, which would be a giant change, obviously, in European politics, in British politics, might mark the beginning of the end of the European Union and the kind of the broader pan-European experiment that represents. But there are also a lot of parallels between the British political debate and the one here, and probably some lessons for the United States in the outcome of this vote. Some of the arguments that are being used in the British debate are very similar to ones you're hearing here. The establishment is under attack and its arguments are not being heard. That's why the argument to buck the establishment and leave the EU has so much power. Trade and immigration are powerful arguments. Those who want to leave the European Union are arguing in many cases that immigration and trade policies are being forced upon them. They're too liberal and they're not working for Britons. And finally, there's kind of a sense that it'd be better if we could go back in time to a more secure, earlier period. In many ways, that's what Donald Trump is arguing. His very campaign slogan, "Let's make America great again," is an argument that says America was greater before, we were more secure before, let's go back to that time. Similarly, Britons are being asked to go back to a time when they weren't part of a great European experience, but were kind of more of a standalone country. Finally, though, and I think the most important thing is the British vote will give us some clue about whether voters are really willing to consider making a radical change, or whether they'll actually have the willpower to walk into a ballot booth and actually do it. A lot of people think that the vote to exit the EU will fail because in the end, people won't be able to pull the trigger for such a radical step. Similarly, will people merely be willing to consider a radical step like going for an outsider like Donald Trump, or in the end, will they really be able to do it, to go into a voting booth in November and pull the lever? Britain might give us a few clues.